Hello, and thanks for watching or listening to episode 31 of VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. Whether you're watching on YouTube or downloaded for a listen on iTunes or Spotify, be great if you can leave us a review. I'm Steve Lillis, and with me, my regular co-pilot, John Evans. I take it you're well, John?
I'm very good, Steve. How's Sonny Ashton?
Oh, mate, I'm sitting in the conservatory here, mate. All I can see is bird shit on the roof, but there you go, you know. But yeah, look, you know, so we've got someone who don't talk shit anyway this week. He's a good man. Very special guest who's getting ready to go on a revenge mission. Former world featherweight champion, Josh Warrington. We've been trying to get you on for a while, Josh, but John Evans has finally persuaded you. Things okay?
Yeah, things are well. Things are well. I'm a diva these days, I'm a diva, you know. I've got a stacked diary of all the different things and whatnot, but yeah, glad to be on board. But yeah, things are well, boys. Things are well. All recovered from the last fight now, and just raring to go again. That's what I ask you.
I presume you're gearing up for the rematch. And what's the latest on heading leagues? There was a licensing problem.
Yeah, I believe that's going to get overturned. The guys at Leeds Rhinos are very confident that's going to be overturned. So we're just waiting to hear on news of that. Then once that's done, you know, Eddie will announce a date and you know, announce the fight, and then it's real. Then it's real. It's not always real until it gets out to the media and whatnot. So as soon as that gets going, we're good to go. But I've been back in the gym anyway, training hard and ticking over.
Josh, can you imagine, Josh, the atmosphere that night? That'll be one of the first big events Leeds has had since all this shit that's been going on. Your big revenge night, outdoors, Headingley. Can you imagine? This will be the atmosphere times 10, won't it? This will be something else.
Well, I don't know if you boys have been around Headingley, but it's a prime. Well, look at Ellis's face. That just says enough. It's a prime student area. There's, you know, 2 of the 3 universities of Leeds are in Headingley, and it's just full of like students and whatnot. But it's also very notorious for people going on having a day session on the drink, because there's like there's what they call the Otley Run, and there's like, I think there's about 14 pubs all lined up together, and it finishes around where the stadium is. So it'd be a massive event, and the Rhino Stadium's been there since 1897. There's never been anything like this held there, so it would be fantastic for me personally, having done Ellen Road, having done Leeds Arena 10 times, and then to do the Rhino Stadium. You know, it's I've done all the big arenas and stadiums in Leeds then.
I wish you hadn't described Headingley like that. My youngest daughter is aiming for Leeds University next year. So she wants me to take her over there for a look around Headingley in a couple of weeks. But I've been into that rugby league ground, never watched a match. I've been to the cricket ground often. I used to cover cricket. What did she tell you,
Steve? Did she say she wanted to go to Leeds University because it's got the best library and the best science lab?
Yeah, the best library and the best psychology courses in the country. But now there's the Otley Mile or whatever it's called. You know, whatever they want to call it. Otley Run, whatever. Oh dear. Well, I'll tell you what happens in this podcast, John. It's 3 minutes each topic, and if you're still gassing after 3 minutes, or one of us is, this is what happens.
You got the bell, Josh.
Thank you.
Bell comes in.
John.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Then we'll start with round 1, and I think you're going to start, John, on someone who boxed the weekend.
Yeah. Josh Buatsi. I've been right on the Josh Buatsi train ever since he turned pro. I love the style. I love the way he carries himself, the way he holds himself, the style he's got. I just like watching Josh. He got a lot of credit this week for, you know, the way he was dealing with the opponent after the knockout and stuff. But scrap that. I was most impressed with the coldness and the viciousness and the way he put that guy away. And I think that's what might just help him bridge that gap from where he is now up to the top of the elite. I think it's something a few British fighters lack, that snap and that ability to really do a number on someone and have that fight-ending power. It's a big gap from where Josh is now to the guys at the top of the division. Yeah. So the next step's crucial. But I've seen people talking about Jean Pascal or Badu Jack, but they're fighting. So that knocks Josh back another 6 months. So getting another American, someone like Marcus Brown, a good top 10 guy, an American I always think makes a much bigger impact on people's consciousness. And let's get Josh moving, because I think he's the business.
Yeah, I'll just be brief for we have Josh in on this. I mean, what you were saying, I was looking through some names this afternoon, and he's number 2 with a WBA and IBF. I think he's also with a WBC 6, 7 WBO. And I was saying I'd like to see him against the Bolotniks, Sullivan Barrera or Jesse Hart, who's just come off a world title fight. He's fantastic, but before he goes to these guys, because he's so close to a world title fight, he needs that world-class win.
Yeah, most definitely. And like you say, when someone comes off of from the amateur pedigree with an Olympic medal, you're expecting to be fast tracked and stuff like that. But I still wouldn't mind like a little test before they just go on to a world title. And there's some fantastic domestic guys over here who we could handle with. Lyndon Arthur's chasing a world title shot, and Spider Richards Richards will just do.
Craig Richards,
Craig Richards, sorry, yeah. He gave a good account of himself. So even though he's beaten, the last 2 fights have been unbeaten, just a massive domestic name would be able to elevate him as well and make him like the standout above everyone else. So I don't mind seeing that.
I think if it's going to be any of them, though, it's going to be Craig Richards, isn't it? Because they're not going to. It's not going to be Lyndon against Buatsi, with all, unless we all. Well, boxing's not a sport for common sense, is it? The common sense thing would be to have Frank Warren against matchroom fighters on the undercard of Joshua and Fury, and that'd just be a dream world. But it does seem like Spider Richards, if it's going to be any of these domestic guys.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Warren has hinted at, or not Frank, Eddie Hearn did enter at cross up today. He's hinted there's going to be cross promotional fights on that bill. Hey, that's if it happens still. Let's be honest there. But no, the other fights aren't going to happen. Yard Arthur or Callum Johnson. They're not going to happen. Frank's going to keep them together. They might box each other.
Steve.
Round 2. I'll tell you what, it's about this trainer beef we've had with Mark Tibbs and Ben Davison since Billy Joe Saunders lost to Canelo. I've been a bit uncomfortable listening to both fellas, really. It's almost like giving their version of events. Well, this is what actually happened. This is what happened. There's been different agendas around the fight since then, which we touched on last week, John. I just feel a bit uncomfortable. And no one in these speeches has said, well, as long as Billy Joe's all right. It's all been like defending their sort of territory. And, I like Mark and Ben. I've just been a bit uncomfortable how it's been done, because the bottom line is Billy Joe had to pull out of that fight because of an eye injury. There was nothing wrong with his heart or desire. It was a horrible injury that we can only imagine the pain that forced him to pull out. And I've just been a little bit disappointed in the sort of, the rhetoric, but, between the trainers, where they haven't gone into each other, but both given a separate version of events. The bottom line is Billy Joe lost because of an horrific injury, and we should just be wishing him well, not trainers arguing, not, disputing what actually happened in the corner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree 100%. I think it's all a bit pathetic, really. I don't think there was any controversy, was there? Billy boxed well. He got hit with a fantastic shot off the best fight on the planet, broke his face to bits, and he couldn't carry on it. I don't see what the controversy is, and I'm not entirely sure why people are trying to feather their own nests and stuff and get their view of it pushed forward. I just can't understand it all. It seems to have created a mountain out of a molehill, really.
Yeah, I've got to agree then. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what I hadn't even seen the little spit what's gone on. To be honest with you, but like you say, what's happened is what has happened. There's no point in saying, well, I could have done this better, I could have done that better, because although they might have had an influence in camps and stuff, they've both worked with Bill in the past, but ultimately it's the Bill to pull it off on the night. And, he was doing all right. He was giving a good account of himself, but it just got over one of them shots. And, for his own safety, the fight got stopped, and that should be the end of it. It shouldn't be, well, I'd have carried him on for another round, or if I'd have been in the corner, that wouldn't have happened, because then you're opening doors of all different kind of scenarios, what could have and should have happened, or might have done, or not, what didn't happen. So it's ridiculous when they're just taking cheap spats at each other, when end of the day it's down to the fighter being, in good health. And well, obviously he was in bad health, but making sure that he stayed in good health.
Yeah, and neither of them, I think, have come out of it particularly brilliantly, because people, if you look at it on social media, people have taken sides. You know, they seem down the middle. So 50% of the people seem to be with Ben, 50% with Mark. So I don't think it's done it in a long term. It hasn't done either of them a lot of good.
You know, Steve.
Round 3, your first topic, Josh.
So my first topic is about comebacks, setbacks. Obviously, I tasted defeat first time. 30 fights, 11 years professional, and obviously, I have always feared this day. I've always been scared of it because you think that your career is going to be over, but in many careers of so many different fighters now, not just fighters who've lost, because you can talk about likes of Amir Khan getting knocked out by Brady Prescott when he wasn't meant to. You can talk about people who've walked away from boxing. For instance, Sugar Ray Leonard, when he had a detached retina. You can look at people who've been criminal convictions like Mike Tyson. You can look at mental health. Tyson Fury of recent years, and then just a genuine loss like Anthony Joshua against Ruiz. I think boxing is I've just started to realise that it's all part of the makeup and the fairy tale and the story, what is boxing. And I think that's what makes it so exciting. Yes, you want to stay undefeated as a fighter, but people get more excited, I think, to see you come back, to see how you can prevail through them setbacks, and it's just more normal life then.
Yeah, I mean, when you say you're finished, how much does it hurt when you lost that unbeaten record, Josh? Well, I'm going a bit off topic there.
It hurt me. I'll be honest with you, because I got to a stage where I thought I'm unbeatable. I thought that I would finish my career as featherweight unbeaten. When I stepped up, that's a different kettle of fish. That's unknown territory. But I thought I've dealt with every single style. You come forward, you can box. People who box on the back foot, people who are awkward like Kid Gallard, tall, short. I've dealt with all the styles, and I've always found a way to win. And obviously, taking the eye off the ball on a night, and it just shows that this is sport and anything can happen. And obviously, it hurts me, but I haven't dwelled on it for too long. Maybe because I've achieved so much anyway, and I've gone beyond where I thought that I would have been. But if anything, it's given me a fire to rewrite that and to get revenge.
Yeah, well, you won't have lost that that self-belief. You still know you've got that ability, don't you? You still know you've dealt with all them styles. And I suppose if you look on the positive, this has added even more. It's thrown petrol on the fire, hasn't it?
Most definitely. And you know what, Johnny? I think if anything, maybe us as a team might have got a little bit lackadaisy. Maybe just taking it as a given, which we've never done in any of his previous fights before. So it's just maybe a bit of a blessing for the future fights to take everyone as dangerous as, and as his last fight.
I'll cut you off there just after 3 minutes.
It's good that.
We've got a situation this weekend where there's 2 new subscription channels or apps, whatever you want to call them, showing boxing. And you add that to DAZN, and it's getting to the point where everything is on apps now. There's very little on TV, especially with Matchroom leaving Sky. We don't know what's going to fill that gap. We're told there's more boxing than ever on TV. We're told there's more opportunities than ever for British boxers. But if people aren't watching these opportunities, are they really that big? I'm a sad bastard, I'll watch anything. And I'm going to struggle to keep up with Fight TV, the Small Hall one, DAZN, all the pay-per-views. It's too much. I just wonder if we're going to get a generation of fighters who build their career on one app, get the breakthrough fight on an undercard of a pay-per-view, get the world title fight on DAZN, and then get a unification fight on Fight TV. None of them are readily available at the press of a button. And I just wonder if it's just going to dilute the sport and make it even more of a minority.
I mean, I think we always have been a minority sport in the sense that, boxing's very popular, but, that people tune in for the big fights. Half the people, I've said this to you before, John, I think on it. I go running with some guys on a Saturday and they're just boxing fans, Saturday Night Sky fans. They won't have a clue half the stuff that goes on. And I just think we always have been an underground, and like the UFC has been for much of its time, It's an underground sport. It's a minority sport. There's 800 professional, 900, 800 professional boxers in Britain. How many of them can survive without having other jobs? You know, Josh, I guess you're in a club of 20 or something. You know, and it shouldn't be the case this in 2021. Boxing should be having breakouts at the moment, because in this year we have AJ Fury, Charles O'Brien, we could have Canelo and Plant, Taylor Ramirez this weekend, 4 weights where we could have an undisputed champion. And then you're also going to have brilliant unifications like Fulton and Figueroa. And I just think a lot of it is down to we need newspapers and radio like 5 Live to cover boxing, because the audience that watches IFL, Seconds Out, Boxing Social, they're already in there. That's not bringing in a new fan.
Yeah, I just disagree with you a little bit there, Steve, if I'm honest with you, because I think that boxing's at an all-time healthy state. And obviously, say what you want about these YouTubers and whatnot, but they're bringing a new audience as well. And John mentioned there about going on all to these different apps and stuff, but rewind nearly 30 years ago when Sky Sports first came on and boxing went from ITV to Sky Sports. I bet people who watched terrestrial TV then thought, it's all going to disappear now. It's all going to disappear. And it's not. It stood the test of time. And now I was just getting going.
We'll go back to that after your last topic, I think. We'll go back. Right, but John's strict on that. I tell you, we're talking of boxing streams and apps now for round 5. And Taylor Ramirez. Now, I fancy Josh Taylor massively this weekend. But I think it's a great, great fight that's just gone under the radar. And that's following on from what John said. Is that because it's on Fight TV, an app that few know about, and BT Sky or Channel 5, who took a big American fight recently, I think which one it was, haven't taken it. It's a fight that's gone under the radar, and that maybe explains to what we were saying about, boxing, not being in the mainstream like it should be. Josh Taylor should be a superstar, and I just think in England, perhaps he don't get the credit because he's from Edinburgh. If he was a Londoner, he would get it. He would be given the superstar treatment this week in the press.
And that's the thing about boxing. That is the thing about boxing, because boxing loves drama. Boxing is like a Coronation Street or an EastEnders. Once you've got these characters in there, it doesn't matter if you've got better boxers out there. People will always be attracted to the characters. Look at, for instance, I don't know, top of my head, Dave Allen of recent times. How much of a fan base did he soak up and build? And he wasn't the greatest of fighters, but just because he sold his story. Now, I was talking to Josh a few weeks back at, when Max Hughes won the British title. And obviously, I'm a fan of Josh. I enjoy watching him. I'm talking about how great his career is going. And all he wanted to talk about in my sense were, what's it like to walk out in front of 20,000 people? I think if he had that fan base behind him, then his own fans would be making more of a big deal of it. They'd be sharing more things on social media, and then that just builds traffic and on and on and on. But because he's just maybe a little bit reserved, a little bit quiet, doesn't say so much at press conferences, his fan base is good, but it's not like humongous. I think that's probably one of the reasons why the fight is going under the radar, and it is a massive shame. For genuine boxing fans, it's fantastic, and we'll all love it and soak it up, but for Joe Public, it's just another fight, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's a shame, isn't it? Because when Josh gets in the ring, what a fighter to watch. He's not, he might be quiet outside, but he's not quiet in it. He puts himself in harm's way straight away. He could probably win fights a lot easier than he does. Like, I think it's a can't miss this week, and I think it'll be a belter from start to finish, but I think Josh will do it. I think he'll probably just be a level above Ramirez.
And I think this is something that maybe young boxers going forward need to take into consideration. All right, you don't always need to be brash and bull at press conferences. You don't need to chucking tables or slagging off people's mums at press conferences. But you have to realise that this is a business as well. And to make yourself attractive, you have got to be devastating in the ring, which Josh is, but you might have to have something a little bit more to sell yourself to the public.
Your last one, Josh?
Final round, your topic, Josh.
What was last topic? Okay.
Injuries.
Injuries.
Oh,
fight.
Injuries, yeah. Injuries, sorry, boys. All right, so injuries. So, obviously, in my last fight, it was probably one of the worst fights where I've come away injured. Obviously, in fights before, I've had busted hands, I've had perforated eardrums, But in the last one, it seemed I got a tutti frutti of all these things. I had a bad shoulder, bad elbow, bad hand, bad perfect eardrum, fracture on my jaw, and I was concussed for about 3 or 4 days. But you carry on now. Obviously, Billy Joe had suffered a break, and he right in his corner to pull him out. But throughout boxing, we have seen some like horrendous injuries, but fighters have still managed to carry on. Now, where is the balance between who pulls you out, your corner, the fighter? Because fighters normally will never say no. I mean, look at Danny Williams. He had a dislocated arm, and he still wanted to win the fight. You look at people like most boxers get bad hands, like your Floyds. Even the very best get bad hands in the fights. So many countless injuries for that, and then you got obviously excuses like broken toes, for instance, from our good mate David A. But I'm just gonna were your thoughts interested? Like, what is the thing where you say that's enough, or do we like watching a boxer going through the struggles and going on to try and get the win?
I mean, the Danny Williams fun was a 1 in a million that night. I was there that night. That was, if you look at that bill that night, I don't want to go off topic here. It was one of the maddest bills ever. I think quite a few of them ended up in hospital that night with eye injuries and all sorts of things. It was a nutty night. Even down the bill, there was, I think it was Jason Rowland fought a Russian in this war that's never been mentioned. And I think it was Jason. It was X-rated stuff. But no, you know what? A fighter pulls out and he's injured. I've got no problem with it. They got a life ahead of boxing. Billy Joe Saunders the other week, no problem at all. Daniel Dubois, this is what I think I've said to you before we started recording, Josh, about injuries and stuff. No one knows. All these people who have a go, me, anyone, that's why I'll never knock a fighter who pulls out injured with these eye injuries or whatever, because we've never been through that pain. We've never been in the road. I know when I'm watching a good fight, I can talk boxing. I can't comment on a boxer being right to pull out, even as a journalist. I've never been in that pain. You can't compare, Joe Public cannot compare yourself with the pain you was going through in your fight. What Billy Joe was going through, the stabbing pain Daniel Dubois had in his eyes when he went down on a knee. I mean, we've got 5 or 6 senses. Your senses of sight is the one you polled a nation. The sense of your sight is one you couldn't go without. And we've seen untold bravery. I think of Asim Rahman with that golf ball eye when he fought Holyfield and he got through to the end. I've got no problem with a fighter who would pull out and I wouldn't dig him up on it.
No, exactly the same. I can't even begin to put myself in your position, Josh, when you've got a cracked jaw and one of your weapons to defend a Mexican who's trying to take your head off isn't working because your shoulder and elbow are done. I can't put myself in that position. I spent some time down with Daniel Dubois a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to him about the pain in his eye. And he said at the same time, he was thinking, this hurts. He was thinking, what's going to happen to my eye in the future?
Yeah.
And he was thinking, I can't afford to lose this fight. And he was thinking, I can still win. And he said, all those thoughts were in my mind at the same time. And eventually the pain just became too much. And it's like an involuntary action to drop to his knee. He couldn't carry on. And unless you've been in there, you can't, I don't think you can even dare to criticize someone who's been in there.
No.
Yeah, most definitely. And for myself, I mean, I've going back to my last fight because it's the worst I've been in. 4, 7, 8, 9, it was a bit of a blur. I can't really recall too much of it because probably was a little bit concussed. I wasn't able to defend myself fully because my arm, it was absolute agony. But I kept on saying to my old fella, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to go for it. I still believed I was still in the fight. I didn't find out until I had a fractured jaw until after the fight. I knew I had my perforated eardrum when it had happened because that's happened to me in the past. And I know that feeling, it's like being under the water. But, I mean, for myself, I just wanted to crack on because I wanted to win. I didn't want to lose that unbeaten record. And I guess it's like you have to have an idea of, where you'll get to a stage where what's most important. But in my experience, it was just like, I've got to carry on and got to get that win. It was only until I actually got stopped by the referee that, I realised it was over.
How soon afterwards did you realise, Josh, how bad the injuries were? Was it as soon as you went back to the corner when they announced him the winner? Did you think, God, I'm in a mess here?
Do you know what, like, Steve, I've gone down, you know, I'm laid down, I'm looking at lights, I can hear 1, 2, and then Howard stood above me and I sit up and Howard says, it's over, Josh. And I said, let me get up, Howard. And let me get up. And he went, no, it's over. And then he hit me then. And then it's only when I come back to the changing rooms, when adrenaline starts to come down a little bit, I go back to the changing rooms, it's full. All I'm seeing is loads of like green shirts, all of green jackets, paramedics. And then I goes back to I get put in back of an ambulance. And it was only then that things really started to hurt. Obviously, pride hurt, you know, but then I'm getting all these different senses are coming to light now. You know, all these feelings, my shoulders throbbing even more. I'm trying to talk, but I'm slurring because my mouth's, you know, my jaw's fractured. I've got bumps and bruises all over my lips. And it was only from then on. And then after that, it goes on. You know, when you get home, when it's all calmed down, it's all closed down, you go behind your closed door, you lock the front door, that's when it really starts to come out, you know, when you're just in your own comforts.
Wow. Crazy. Isn't it crazy the role adrenaline plays when you're on a high? I've seen you in your dressing room after fights, Josh, when you've had bad hands, and it's like you've not got a bad hand, you know, you're happy, you're up, you've achieved something, your friends are there, family's there, and especially, I imagine the setting you were in as well, being a freezing cold dressing room down at Wembley with nobody you knew there. That must have just made it even more stark, really. It
wasn't comfortable, I'll be honest with you, John. Like you say, for 30 fights, I've always come back and big smile on my face, we're all buzzing, and it's always busy for, you know, the right reasons. We've done the business, but this time I come back, you know, people are affected from my team. Obviously, my dad's a bit all over the place. Me Padman Abdul, he's crying his eyes out. I goes back in, and like I say, it's just like a bit of a blur. Just all I can see is green shirts around the paramedic team, and they're all making a bit of a fuss. And normally it's like press want to speak to me, and it's like, yeah, just slow down. But you're happy, we're buzzing, we've got an happy feeling. It's the buzz. But this time I was in pain and I was hurting as well, like pride. And I'm looking about and people are in my face and saying, Josh, let me have a look at your eyes, let me look at your eyes. And I'm saying, just calm down. And then the injuries are really starting to come out. I'm coming off the adrenaline very quickly. I sit down and then, you know, doctors saying he needs to go to hospital. I'm just hearing all these different things, but I don't really know who's talking until one of the board doctors actually sits down and looks me in the eye and he goes, look left, look right. And he says, Josh, please go to hospital. I want you to go have a checkup. And it's only like then where it's like, you know, this is just its home of like, I've been hurt here, but there could be something even worse down the line. And I'm saying to the doctor, is there something that you're not telling me about? Is there something I should know? He says, Josh, just for the precaution, the signs say you need to have a scan. So, you know, it's only then that you start to worry a little bit more. We sat in back at hospital. One of the first things I thought of is my kids. You know, I'm with my wife, Natasha. She's down with me. She's in back at ambulance with me. But one of the first things I'm thinking about is my kids, and I can't show up. I'm crying my eyes out, but I can't show up talking about my kids. Do you know? So I think it's one of the things that, you know, it's not a nice thing to experience, but it's only then when you realise that how tough this sport is. But it's something that your normal fan doesn't get to see. You know, once the lights go down and the program finishes, that's it. It's to go home and to talk about it. But for a lot of fighters, that fight carries on.
You know, that's a tremendous insight you've given us there, Josh. And this is why, you know, I say so often, I don't know what I'm sure John will add to this, that people criticise, and unless you've been in them shoes, you can't identify. In any walk of life, something happened to someone, there could be something happens to me, and you'll say, I know how you're feeling, but you don't, because you've never been through that in life. You know, whether it could be a personal thing, anything, you know, and what you went through there, none of us can identify. We can listen to you and be wowed by what it was like in that dressing room. You know, you get back and there's all guys in green shirts and green trousers, but we haven't been there. We can't identify. We actually haven't been there.
Yeah, and this is it. And for myself, I'd not been there before, Steve. I've been in hard fights. John's just talked about it there. There's been times when I've come back to change rooms and my hands are like balloons. One instance there, Kiko Martinez, I didn't feel it when I had adrenaline. But then when the adrenaline started coming down and coming off it, my hands were throbbing, man. I was screaming, get me some ice, because it was my hand like a balloon. It was up there. Carl, after fight with Carl Frampton, it was something similar, but it's always overshadowed by the glory and the win and the buzz that you get from just getting the arm raise, because that's all we always seek. We always seek just getting the arm raise, no matter how it comes, as long as you win, that's the main thing. But if anything, I think I've always respected my opponents anyway. After fights going in the future, I think I'll spend a little bit more time just with my opponent, because I'm talking like I'm going to win the rest of my fights and that again. Do you know what I mean? But I think it just makes you appreciate as well other fighters who've gone through hard fights as well. Because like I say, it was easy even for myself to criticize other fighters, but I'd never been as that sparring or a fight. I'd never been as that. So definitely an eye opener.
I can put myself in your shoes in one bit, Josh. I've had a few bad concussions. One of them, a real brutal incident where I got hit on the temple by a snowball.
Snowballs, John.
That put me straight. That put me up in the emergency head injuries. That.
Well, I will pull you up on, Josh. You said there's usually journalists in your dressing room. We usually have to wait for a press conference. Evans is usually the only one in your dressing room. He comes out and said, John Evans comes and says, he's coming to see you in a minute, fellas. Don't worry. He's the only one. I've never seen journalists in your dressing room. There's always press conferences. Then John Evans comes out leading the party.
VIP treatment, isn't it, boys? VIP treatment.
Josh, you've been a brilliant guest this week. Thanks very much for joining us, and hopefully in a couple of months we can get you back on again before you a month or two before you really knuckle down to training the hard stuff and the sparring at night for this rematch we hope that's going to come off in September or October or whenever.
No problem, boys, and hopefully next time I'll finish off my other bit what I was talking about.
You can finish it off if you want, mate. We've got another 4 minutes.
I've lost my momentum, I think, but I'll just quickly, I think the boxing will always flourish, and it is an underground sport for your diehards. It is an underground sport, but it isn't more sports. Now look at tennis. Look how big tennis is worldwide. But really, over here, who gives a fuck until Wimbledon comes? No one's really interested. It's about the big events. Now, the difference is Wimbledon will only attract a few sports. As soon as a big fight comes, AJ and Fury comes about, I guarantee every single person we're talking now, little old ladies to old men to young people at school, they'll all be talking boxing has that power where it can just take over the world. And there's not many sports that can do that, boys. So, that is your counter argument against is it dying?
No, I don't think it's, what my point is, it's minority most of the time, this sport. When it is big, it's loved. But it is minority underground that few people don't know about.
With that being said, then, I'll go back at when I first turned pro. When I first turned pro, shows were in leisure centres.
Yeah.
And there were a British title headlining, and the chief support was a local. And that was it. In a local, in a night rounder, in a meaningless fight, then the undercard was stacked with just local talent coming through. And that would it. You rarely get a 50-50 fight. Now fighters are household names. They're fighting in arenas and stadiums. They're getting sponsors on them, like car manufacturers, food corporations. They're getting big celebrity presences at the fight. So again, I think obviously it comes down to a lot of the promoting, the way the promoting's done. That speaks for a lot of it, and the profiles of the fighters. And I think as we go forward, we'll have to use this a little bit more. Now fighters will have to start, having videographers. They're going to have to start having a profile on Instagram, because the people, it's right. People want to see it. People want to see what goes on. People want to see what boxers eat for the dinner. They want to see the training schedule. But with all that, they can make themselves a massive name. So if you want to be that big name, then it's accessible for the fighter to do that. It's all there. All these tools are out there, and it's just got to be able to use them.
Yeah. My only worry is there's all these different ways, but it's just making sure that boxing fans use them. I mean, could Johnny Kebab get DAZN on his TV?
after I've shown him, I mean, he can get porn. He can get porn. But no, I understand what you're saying, but like probably even our good friend Steve Wood, like a few years ago, he wouldn't have been able to work Twitter and stuff like that. Now you can't get him off it. He absolutely loves it. So I think more like anything, it was before a lot of people's times, but they just didn't come accustomed to it.
Yeah. I've only got less than a minute left, so you've timed that well, Josh, to have your say and put me right. But Josh, seriously, thanks very much for coming.
Thanks for having me, lads.
Thank you, gentlemen. And John, thanks as always, my co-host, John Evans. Thanks everyone who's watching, downloading. Really enjoyed it this week. Thank you, everybody. See you, fellas.
Cheers, boys. For all boxing info, news, and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.